Hello, you guys. This is Gina Brogan, and I'm coming to you to have coffee with Kandice. This is my friend Kandice Wirch. I met her two years ago, I believe, at a retreat in Canada. And we just really enjoyed getting to know each other. And Kandice is a huge inspiration to a lot of women. She is the CEO of Weight Boss for Life, a nurse, health coach, hypnotherapist, and teaches women how to learn to develop a different relationship with themselves so that they can achieve whatever goals, whether it's, love, relationship, but primarily you work with weight loss goals and having that relationship with your body. So Kandice, I would love to hear a little bit more about what you do and what you love about this work.
Well, I love so much about this work. I absolutely fundamentally believe that when we have a good primary relationship with ourself and food, we can transfer all those skills to every other relationship and every other goal we have in ourselves, within our life, because how we feed ourselves is the most foundational thing that we can do. So when we have a good relationship with ourselves and food, we don't use food to buffer. We don't use food to deny and turn away. And all those same skills are transferable to everything else. So if I know how to not buffer and turn away from uncomfortableness with myself and food, I can apply that to anything else. And then I'm powerful.
Can you talk a little bit about what it means to buffer with food?
So that's when we're using food to change our state. We're using food as a way to create an emotion. Either it's to buffer us from feeling bored. The 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm at my desk, I'm working away, and all of a sudden, I'm sure it's snack time. We're not hungry, but we're really actually seeking a change. And what is the easiest state changer for us all to grab? It's absolutely food. It's also the one that we are hypnotically encouraged to grab as a state changer. So the message around us is everywhere. We can use other things to change our state. We can use alcohol, we can use drugs, we can use shopping, we can use Facebooking, but really the one that is socially approved to use is food. So you get up, you change your state by eating. You weren't hungry, you didn't need it, you're sitting back down. Or you may say, I'm feeling stressed or anxious. You'll walk into the house after a day and you'll say either consciously or unconsciously, gee, I've had a rough day. I deserve this. And seeing the food. So what I do is I help you look at that sort of story you're telling yourself and why you're allowing food to be the thing that helps you change your state. Let's all start learning to change our own state. So then we are powerful. We are powerful beyond belief once we can do that, because then food's not in charge of us. A relationship's not in charge of us. A bottle of wine's not in charge of us. Shopping's not in charge of us. I decide what I'm going to eat from my frontal brain, not my primitive, I want it now kind of brain.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I've been observing myself and my habits lately, and I've noticed that like when I have calls, several calls at one after another, I will finish a call and get up and just wander into the kitchen.
Yes.
And I'm like, what am I doing here? It's habit. And
and so that habit gets ingrained by, it's not all our fault. Like we're working on some pretty ancestral DNA, and then we have a whole food system and a whole advertising system that is actually targeted to that primitive DNA. The first time you get up from that call and you go into the kitchen is the cue. Now you grab something, you get an immediate burst of dopamine. Now dopamine is going, oh, that was fantastic. Could you do that again as many times as you possibly can? So now after the call, you almost feel an impulsive drive to move there. So that's dopamine pushing you there. And dopamine can be created, the pull of it can be created from habit, cue, thought, feeling, all those things. And the more we reward it, the louder it gets. And really, you know, we say, I don't want to use willpower to lose weight.
Right.
But in some ways, we got to get a relationship with willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. We don't want to use it a whole lot, but we want to really see what that relationship is all about. And that's about learning to delay gratification and to sit in uncomfortable. Because when we are eating impulsively and when we're eating in that, you know, I deserve it kind of state, or we're just, you know, opening the menu and all of a sudden everything looks delicious and all goals go out the window. We are in the instant gratification. But if I can learn to manage delay gratification, it's always net positive. It'll always lead me to what's positive in life. Instant gratification will always lead me to net negative over time. Weight gain, poor finances, maybe drug or alcohol problem. All that is violence, bullying. So much of what we see right now is all about instant gratification. Our world is just coming at us instant. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And dopamine, once we're triggering it in one area, we trigger it in another area. We trigger it in another area. So you can see how food gets mixed up in all this because we primarily have to feed ourselves. Now if I'm triggering dopamine with super desirable food, oh, there's so much going on for us. There
is so much going on. And I like to think of it like the inner toddler. Like who's running the bus? Who's driving the bus here? Is it the inner toddler who's like, feed me, or the divine feminine goddess who's like, oh, well, you know what? Actually, when I get up and go to the kitchen every time, I'm automatically just filling my water glass. And it's like, I'm always able to say who is running the show or driving the bus.
Show. That is a great way to say, I have this image of my inner toddler when it's having a fit when I say no to it.
Right.
And how do we manage the inner toddler? Many people don't even know how to manage the inner toddler. They hear or feel a thought, and they believe that it's an absolute fait accompli, that they need to act on it.
Right, and they just do the habits, right?
They just do the habit. We don't have to act on the thought. And when you really embrace that, you got it.
And is this what you help your clients do?
Yes. Yeah.
How does this work, Kandice? How do you do this?
How does my program work?
Yeah.
So it's a fairly concentrated program. So we meet for 10 sessions weekly. And then the last 2 are bi-weekly, and they're anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. And the first chunk is understanding how our brain works in terms of driving behavior, habits, how we set ourselves up for sabotage. Because you've got to understand the thought process if you want to understand the action process. And the action process is around, you know, that impulse to eat. And then the third thing we got to understand is what is the best time to eat. And I don't spend a whole lot of time talking about what foods to eat, because unless you've been living underneath a rock, you know a chocolate bar is not as good as broccoli. Like, you just know that. Like, we don't need to keep ragging on about that.
Right. You don't have to, you're not teaching things that we can find out on Google.
No. Right. No. And you come to this program usually after you've tried many weight loss programs before.
So it's for the person who's tried everything.
Yeah, tried everything. Or the person who just says, I'm going to avoid that whole 97% failure rate, and I'm just going to learn how to manage my head so I can manage my food. Because most of us are really good at losing weight, but what we're not really good at is sustaining long-term weight loss. Most of us can hold on for a little while, go
Yeah.
into a box of a diet, and then it's like, I can't wait. Where's the escape route so that I can get
Yes.
out of this box? Oh, right, I made my goal, I'm out. And then we let go. And I want to set you up so that you don't feel like you ever went into a box and you never have to let go. So there is no start and there is no stop. There is no, I follow the bandwagon. There
Right.
is just kind observation of self. And then if I do this, I notice it, I reflect on why I'm doing it, and I course correct. I know how to course correct. I'm not going, that's it, I've blown it, I'm going to drop into denial and turn away. It's that learning how to be uncomfortable and face, notice where you're at without needing something to make that feeling go away.
Right.
That's
Sitting in that space.
Hardest skill.
Sitting in that space of discomfort is, while it is difficult, when you master it, and like I like to teach incrementally bigger, longer stretches of time. It's like holding a yoga pose. It's like, oh my God, when will this end? When will this end? And then once you kind of get that sense of mastery, there is like, you feel like you can run the world, right? When you go, you get to that other side and your muscles are stronger, your patience muscles, and you feel like you've got a little bit of control over yourself.
Yeah, and it's really building up that self-efficacy model. Do you have your back? When you say something, are you prepared to follow through? Because your brain notices when you say, oh, I'm going on a diet, I'm losing this weight today. And then the first sort of state comes around where you go, ooh, and you eat, your brain notices and it goes, see, even subconsciously, see, you can't do it. And it makes self-efficacy weaker and weaker and weaker. We gotta build that muscle up. That when we say what we're going to do, we follow through with ourselves. Because this is the relationship to honor, is with self. Because then that's how you are in the world. If I honor
it's
me,
the only
I honor
one.
everything out there.
Everything else just sorts itself out. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. And then I also help people realize you don't have to go into a box with food. Our bodies are
Tell us about that.
They're absolutely brilliant. They want us to be in health and homeostasis.
Yeah.
What we do with our relationship with food is we do that instant gratification. Then over time, that instant gratification compounds and it creates ill health in us. And one of the symptoms of ill health, weight is just a symptom of ill health. It is not what needs to be addressed. It's just a symptom of what is going on. Because personally, I have had 2 losses in my life. I have lost my children's father. He had metabolic disease, and he had a relationship with food that was, he buffered with food. We went to program after program after program. Wow. Eat this, do that, move this. And we could support each other for a little while and lose weight. But when life got stressful, or he felt stressful or stress, or he felt out of control, what's his comfort? It was back to buffering with food. And here's the interesting thing. Throughout all those years, nobody ever asked him, how do you feel about your relationship with yourself and food? How do you feel before you reach for Ritz crackers drawn through your body? Like, what's going on underneath here?
Yeah. And, I don't think that was part of the language.
It's not
for a few years from now,
Yeah. And it wasn't it is still not part of the language in terms of most medically directed programs. It really calories in, calories out. And that would assume that I'm a mathematical equation, and I'm anything but a mathematical equation. There's a whole relationship that takes place. Food is my communication to the inside of my body. So Chuck died of massive heart disease.
Wow. So sorry.
He passed away with weight, thank you, with weight on his body. I was lucky enough to get remarried again.
I love Walter, by the way.
Yeah.
He is such a unique, amazing man. Like I just love how much he adores you. It was so evident,
Yeah.
which is probably an example of your relationship with yourself. You attracted
Yeah.
an amazing man.
Yeah.
He's so
Well,
kind. So
Walter's
carry on.
actually my third husband
Oh
because
my
I
goodness.
did get
I'm
married.
sorry.
That's okay. It's part of the story. It's
It is
part,
part of this. He is amazing though. Carry
yeah.
on.
So I was lucky enough to get married again, and he was tall and thin. And
Oh,
unconsciously, I thought in my head, oh, I'll be safe here. I'll be safe here. Not really examining everybody's relationship with food. And remember, I said weight is just a symptom?
yeah.
Ken ultimately passed away in front of me very suddenly from a massive heart attack. He was
Candice.
tall and thin, and he had the exact same internal disease process that Chuck had. And it's all our relationship with food. Weight is
Wow.
only a symptom. We have cardiovascular disease. We have so many things. And I get choked up because 75% of why we are in the shape we're in is about our primary relationship with food.
Right.
And, you know, God was blessed me, and I was lucky enough to get married again. But weight loss was really born after those two major losses. But there was time there, and I started to look at my children who were getting a really disrupted relationship with themselves and food. And let's face it, I had my own 25, 30 pounds that I was packing on, always struggling, always trying to do, you know, do the diet.
Right.
And I just thought, no, my kids are not going to have this struggle with, oh, I lose weight,
legacy.
I go on a diet, but then
Mhm.
I eat whatever I want over here. And I thought there has to be a better way. And so I just did a massive dive on what does the literature really say? What is best practice? Are we just mathematical equations? You know, what does history teach us about how we've sustained over the course of millennium? Like we should collectively look at all of that. And so I did a deep dive and realized we got to get inside our head before we ever get inside what's going into our body. And then we got to let go of this concept of when I am practicing good health, I can never have anything super desirable, because that creates that over desire. And then I think everybody else in the world gets to eat all this great stuff and I don't. So now I'm pissed off. So I'm just grouchy because
I hear that all the time. You're taking away all of my joy.
Taking away all the things.
Right.
And so I don't take away anything. But what I ask you to do
That's
is
encouraging.
make those decisions from your frontal brain and not your impulsive brain. And that is a skill in and of itself. You master that one. I still eat cheesecake. I still eat cake. I still eat chips. I still have popcorn. But my weight's been unbelievably stable for over 3 years now. So how do I do that?
I can affirm that because I know that. I've seen you. And you're always just looking so fabulous.
Thanks. So how do I do that? Is that I make conscious choices. So I don't compound my times when I am having super desirable food. There's no good food, there's no bad food. I learned to not use instant gratification all the time. I learned to not compound. And I know and anticipate, should I go out for dinner and have cheesecake and wine and the whole 9 yards?
Yeah.
What is going to show up for me the next day? I'm not surprised. I'm not going to be surprised. My weight will be up. I'll feel puffy. I'll feel extra hungry the next day. So what are the tools I can use to course correct immediately?
I love that. I want to know these tools.
Darn, I've gained some weight. That's it. I'm so disappointed. I won't get on the scale again. And then we look away until we feel so miserable again. Then we go, that's it. I'm going back on a diet. So we got to stop that. Just stop it. Stop.
I feel like that's probably why people lose weight, but then they gain a little bit more and then they get upset, then they lose weight, gain a little more. And that is a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. And what we're doing every time that we do that is we change what I term minimum baseline. What's your minimum baseline? Because most people don't say, oh, my minimum baseline is 60 pounds more than what I am right now.
Right.
They're believing they've actually set their minimum baseline to be right here. But really, when we hit it and it's uncomfortable because we're hitting it,
Yeah.
now we got to course correct and go down. We're hitting it, but we don't quite know how to course correct. We just keep raising our minimum baseline. And we do that unconsciously by turning away. We go, well, my clothes are still kind of fitting me. They're using clothes as, you know, my clothes feel good. They're not using any hard data about their bodies or anything like that. So we keep raising our minimum baseline. And then we just circle the drain again until we feel absolutely miserable. And then we try again. We go back into the box of chicken and dried salad and think, okay, I can do this for 10 weeks. I can do this. I can do this. They can, but you've learned nothing about sustaining it long term. Nothing.
Right. And you haven't developed the relationship with yourself.
Haven't developed
and
the
the love.
Yourself. Yep. And the love. Because you got to have a compelling reason and you got to love your future self. And most of us don't really love our future self because we don't really know her. We don't really think about her.
I have found that.
Yeah.
When
we eat something and we say that we didn't want to eat it, or I'm on a diet, I shouldn't have eaten it, whatever we're telling ourselves. What we're really saying is that woman I wake up with in the future, she's going to be stronger than me. She's going to know how to go on a diet and maintain her weight. We got to stop that story. This is the woman in front of you that's got to know the relationship with self. Your future self's not any stronger than your present self is. Or the problem would have been corrected a long time ago.
Right, right.
So those are all the things we sort of unearth when people work with me.
Fabulous. So I'd love to ask you a couple of questions before we wrap up here. First of all, thank you so much for this time. And I would love to know, like, do you have something that people can take, you know, away from you? Do you have anything to offer our viewers that they can use? And do you have like 3 go-to steps?
Yeah, I have lots of tips. And if people even just apply a couple of these, they will make massive change with themselves.
Nice.
So willpower is always made up of 3 things. It's made up of I won't power, it's made up of I will power, and it's made up of I want power.
Okay.
So you're always working in those 3 things when you feel like you're working with willpower. We do need some willpower to get momentum going. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we want to shift the power of decision from the back brain, the primitive brain, the toddler that wants it now, to the front brain. The easiest thing you can do to do that is ask yourself to plan what you're going to eat for the next 24 hours, not a week in advance, not days in advance, just how am I going to nourish myself for the next 24 hours? That allows you now to notice when you're impulsively eating, because if it's not written down, I'm not saying what you can eat, I'm saying, what are you willing to eat for the next 24 hours? And I don't want you to create a diet for yourself, but you'll start to notice what you impulsively eat. Now, if you desire something off that plan that you created, now you learn to start managing the emotion of desire, not from just a cue or an impulse, but from like, oh, it's not written here. I said that was what I was going to do. Now, how do I sit in that uncomfortableness? And it's just about learning to let it be. Notice the thoughts, breathe through the thoughts, notice what's going on in your body. It may be your toddler brain just kind of yelling at you the whole time, going, come on, we want the cookie, 1 cookie, it's not going to bother you at all. And
all of those rationalizations crack me up. It's like just 1 cookie. It's not a big deal.
Not a big deal. 1 cookie. And so we learn to have a conversation and appreciate and love that toddler. So we ask it to postpone. We say, yeah, I know you want that cookie. I can see you want that cookie. It's not written down, but if you really want it, I'll put it on the thing for tomorrow.
Oh, I like that.
Write it down for tomorrow, because I'm not saying I can't have it. I'm learning to postpone desire so that I can move and plan and consciously be in charge when I am going to eat the cookie or whatever it is.
You know what I love about what you just did? You validated that little toddler.
Yeah.
You didn't make him wrong or her wrong.
No,
You're like, yeah, I know you want that cookie. That's a good
I
cookie. And you
know.
did
Everyone
exercise.
wants that
So
cookie.
how about this? And you're teaching the toddler negotiation skills. You matter. Your feelings matter.
Yeah,
Oh, this is making me cry.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, Candice, that is magic. Okay.
yeah. And
Thank
then
you
if
for
you
that.
actually do eat the cookie in the moment, you pause and ask yourself just some reflective questions. What was going on for me? Was I bored?
Yeah.
Was I feeling sorry for myself? Was I saying I've had a hard day and I should reward myself? How did I think the food was the reward and how do I feel now? So we start comparing action without judgment. We
Yeah.
start noticing. We get so powerful. Now we're building that self-efficacy
And
and
without judgment. Oh, I
without
call it
judgment.
being the gentle observer. Let's ask some questions. I think it would be great if I'm going to put those kind of questions on the pantry door. What's going on before you open this? What's going
Yeah,
on? Because I like to open it, grab some walnuts. I mean,
yeah,
fortunately, in our home, we don't have sugar here. So I don't have the cookies to grab,
yeah.
but let me tell you, I can find a lot of other things to grab.
And we can overeat on really delicious food because people, I mean, really
Yeah.
healthy,
Yeah. Right.
nutritionally
And just
sound
like
food.
sneak
It's
attacks.
the same thing. It's still going and
Yeah.
overeating. Oh, we're overeating.
And
And
just that 1 second of what's going on below the
what's going
surface.
on?
Is this in the plan?
Yeah. Is this in the
Oh,
plan?
Candice, I love
Write,
that.
write
Yeah.
what you're going to eat or for the
Okay.
next 24 hours down 24 hours in advance. And people will say, and I'm really strict at the beginning about this because it's about building that muscle.
I
So if
love
you
that.
said you were going to have chicken and broccoli, and you open the fridge and there's steak in there too,
Mm-hmm.
and you go, well, I'll just switch it to steak and broccoli. No, no, no. You said chicken and broccoli. If you want steak, it goes down tomorrow or the next day or
And
wherever.
this is just about developing that trust
Yeah.
in your own self that,
Yes.
oh, I can trust myself to honor my boundaries.
Yes. Yes. Transferable to everything, transferable to relationships.
Yep.
If you notice you're in a relationship that is not honoring you, you can start to even ask those reflective questions about what's going on. Why am I settling? Why, what am I afraid of? If I stay, what am I afraid of if I go? You can ask it about yourself in terms of impulse shopping. Do I really need this? Can my pocketbook really afford this? It creates that pause, that ability to slow down. Our ability to master our relationship with food, I absolutely believe is a meta skill, can be applied to every other relationship.
I fully agree with you. Yeah, because these are the same questions I ask my clients to ask. What were you feeling? What was going on? Was this honoring you? So, okay, that is a fabulous takeaway. And I'm sorry I interrupted, but I really wanted to point out how perfect that is.
Yeah.
To build that trust within yourself, I can trust myself that if I say I'm going to do something and that I will follow through. I think that is one of the biggest things that we do when we develop a healthy relationship with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So writing down the things 24 hours in advance.
Yeah. And then the second big thing is, now there's controversy around this, and I'll push back on the controversy for lots of different reasons, is you weigh yourself.
Okay.
You weigh yourself every day.
Okay.
Good studies show that those who weigh themselves consistently have a way more balanced weight relationship with themselves.
Okay.
Say, or the controversy is, well, if I get on the scale, it might make me feel bad about myself.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, just a story you're telling yourself. It's an absolute story. The weight is data, which allows you to now go, oh, did I sleep well last night? Am I in my cycle? Oh, this is the cheesecake I ate last night. It's showing up today. I expected that. I'm cool with that. I know what to do today. It's data, and this sort of thought that, oh, somehow that number can make me feel a particular way. Now I'm giving my power over to a
Yes.
scale, and aren't I reinforcing that things external to me are now responsible for my feelings? Like, that's crazy, crazy, that whole thought. And
Right.
people say, well, I use my clothes. I don't know about you. I can gain 10 pounds before my clothes tell me I've gained 10 pounds. Because if they're
Right.
old, they're pretty stretchy. Let me
Yeah,
tell you.
yeah, yeah.
They're
Right.
still feeling good. So I'm not getting any feedback or data about where I'm at. And my analogy to this is, if I went to the doctor and the doctor took my blood pressure and my blood pressure was elevated, I wouldn't say to the doctor, don't be taking my blood pressure medicine. It makes me feel sad. Like,
La la
let's
la la la.
be grown-ups and
It
get
makes
on
me
that
feel
scale,
sad. That's good.
know where we're at, and turn and face it. Because when I see that number on the scale, and I've learned all these things about how my body works, how my brain works, I can now say, oh, this is what I need to do to course correct. I've got
Right.
my compelling reason, I've got my minimum baseline, and every time I push up against my minimum baseline, which is my number I have to stabilize my weight, then I know how to course correct. I don't have to say, that's it, I've blown it, I'm off the wagon, and I'm waiting for the next magic Monday.
Right, right.
You know, I'm just not gonna do that
Yeah.
anymore.
It's very similar. The analogy I love to use, because I teach this for a lot of people also, is when you track your money, you track your income and
Yes.
expenses. It brings your head out of the sand. And it's, I mean, these practices are things that are divine feminine, are mature, are
Yes.
healthy, loving
Your
version
higher
of
self.
us,
Yeah.
our higher self will practice, because we're not afraid of looking in the mirror and loving
No.
the woman that we see back.
Yeah. No
And
matter what the data is that
no
we're
matter
getting.
what the data, you got to start somewhere.
You gotta
And
start
yeah,
somewhere.
the
Yeah.
inner toddler is going to be like, no, no, la 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 la.
Yes.
But the divine feminine radiant woman is like, show me where I'm going here.
Yeah.
I'm willing to look at this with both eyes wide open.
Yep.
And take the actions that my higher self is actually calling me to take.
Yeah. And I love that. I want everybody to embrace that inner toddler, because that inner toddler is working so hard. It automates most of our life.
Most of it, yeah.
Without it, we would not be able to function. So I am very grateful for that toddler that wants to automate and just have and know and predict.
Yeah.
But I have this beautiful frontal brain that can make decisions singularly, because it can only really do one thing at a time, but from such a higher perspective.
Yeah.
So I want to drop into that as much as I can and appreciate that when I'm feeling desire that I don't want to answer, because this brain has said, no, that's not what we're doing today. That I don't want to answer, that I can just mindfully be and appreciate the job that toddler has, but calm it down.
Right.
And the other question I ask, and I think is a great question for everybody to ask themselves, is when you do eat and you overeat, or you eat something that you think you shouldn't have, or you don't feel good about, or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
is that you reflect on how much pleasure you actually got from it. Because when all is said and done, nobody remembers the cake they ate last year. What they remember is the things that were a little bit more challenging, the relationships, the connection, that I got myself to a better place, that I am connected to people who are supporting me. That's what we remember.
Yeah.
We don't remember the moment of what we ate. We remember the experience of the dinner, not the actual food. So let's take this romantic notion away from food, that it is this, it is community, it is pleasure, but it is also fuel. Most of the time it should be just fuel. Delicious fuel, but fuel. I see it for what it is.
Right, right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
And I think what you're saying is it's not the actual food, it's the surrounding experiences that we attach to emotionally.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what drives that craving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when we are saying no to ourselves, we got to check our story around fear of missing out, because we tell some pretty amazing stories. You know,
Yeah.
when we're saying no, no, you can't have this, or no, you can't have your second glass of wine because you just put one down, or whatever the case may be. And then you look around and you go, well, Sally over there gets to have another one, and she gets to have another one, and she gets to have another one. What we do is we interpret that as I am broken. Why did they get to have it and I don't get to have it? We make tons of assumptions about people. We know nothing about Sally's life. She may have not had a glass of wine for the last 2 months, but we interpret things. So we learn how to check our stories at the door.
Yeah, we tell all the stories. And I will say this, I find that if I have one glass of wine, my stories change.
Oh, good. Yeah,
It's crazy. Like, well, one glass of wine, that was really good, but 2 glasses of wine will be really fun. And some cheese and crackers with it would actually be even
better. Yeah.
So my judgment really, really does wane when I have 1 or 2 glasses of wine. It's interesting. So then I open up my window to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. When I started my weight loss journey, I tried many different programs. And the minute they said I couldn't have wine, that's it. I sabotaged it like you would not believe. And I don't drink a lot.
Right.
But it was just that one little thing that, no, I don't want that taken away from me. And so I would sabotage it. I would get myself out of the box of whatever it is. I had great intentions going into the box, but I'd get myself out the minute you told me I couldn't have wine. So when I started, I actually had on my 24-hour food plan a glass of wine every day.
Nice.
Every day it was there. But now I had to manage desire if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I had to manage desire if my sort of impulse control was going down.
Right.
I don't require wine every day anymore because I know I can have it.
Yeah.
If I want it, I can put it down. It's always on the table. It's always there. Nobody's going to take it away from me. So I learned so much about that one glass of wine, and it was 6 ounces. Like I got pretty clear about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was managing that desire without it taking more than I needed, and learning that nothing is being taken away from me. I don't have to eat all the things right now because I'm going into a box pretty soon.
Right. Yeah. That is so powerful. So powerful. So what is it that you have to offer our viewers so they can get started on developing this relationship?
Yeah. So I have a beautiful PDF and a hypnotic recording that can help people look at their limiting beliefs, because much of weight loss is surrounded in limiting beliefs.
Yeah,
that
it
we
sure
believe
is.
we can't ultimately underneath there. The message is, I can't manage being uncomfortable. I'm not sure I have the worth to be able to manage uncomfortable. So there's all these messages. Or we believe that weight loss and health is really for somebody else. We may even say to ourselves, well, look at, in my family, everybody's big. It's not for me. That's another story we're telling ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolute story. That's epigenetics. That's not genetics.
Uh-huh.
So I will send you the link to share with everybody.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah. And if anybody ever wants more information to connect with me, I would be happy to. It's called Weight Boss for Life. And I have it as for life because I want you to be your boss of your weight.
Yeah.
None
Forever.
of this on anymore.
I love it. That's amazing, Kandice. And yeah, I will put all of your contact information in the comments or the notes. I'll put this up on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and in the private Facebook group, Evolution University. But I really, really appreciate you sharing all of this, Kandice. I know, because I've talked to a lot of your clients who have really experienced great success doing this work. So
Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. Thank you. Thank
So
you.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kandice. And hopefully I'll be able to see you up in Banff again at
Yes.
some point.
That would be great. Pretty soon, I think we're all going to travel again.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, you're up in Canada, right?
Yep. I'm just outside of Banff.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well,
Yeah. So I'm heading there
right.
tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Fabulous. Have a
I know.
fabulous time.
Thank
And thanks
you.
again so much.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Bye.